buddy.
A very pleasant good afternoon as we welcome you in to another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here at Quaker Steak and Lube, the place to be if you are a 1, sports fan,
Check.
2, hungry individual,
Check.
3, thirsty individual.
Check.
Or, if you just want to hang out at a really cool place with a lot of fun people. Not a bad place to drop on by. Lots going on this weekend. We'll get into a good bit of it over the course of the next couple of hours as we get you ready. Penn State, Purdue, we'll certainly talk a little bit about it. Purdue is just about as down as we've seen a Big Ten team in a while, I think.
That's a good point.
Struggling on both sides of the ball and hard to envision. Now, listen, they somehow did you ever see any of the Illinois game? I don't. How in the world Purdue took Illinois to overtime is beyond baffling. So it is college sports. I mean, we have seen crazy things happen. So while it's not something you completely take for granted, I'm telling you, Penn State is going to win and win comfortably on Saturday. So we'll talk a little bit. Again, to me, it's more about Penn State, focusing on Penn State, not getting caught up in the score or even necessarily. I mean, obviously, you're going to take advantage of matchup mismatches in your favor in this game. But to me, it really is building on what I thought was a tremendous bounce back performance against Washington and cleaning up some of the little things that maybe are still lingering. Trying to play, if I was James Franklin, I think the objective of this game should be no penalties. Let's go through 4 quarters. Guys, let's make that our mission. And if you get a penalty, then from that point on, let's limit it to no penalties from this point on. In particular, again, there are penalties and then there are penalties. I really think this team, to get where it wants to get to, you've got to avoid the pre-snap penalties, the silly mistakes, the personal fouls, the stuff that you just can easily get rid of. Mm-hmm. Get rid of it. Is there going to be a bang-bang play in the secondary, and are you going to get all worked up about that? No. But I really do think one of the objectives should be, hey, let's try to play penalty-free football, mistake-free football.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want you going in there so worried about making a turnover, as we've talked about over the years, Goon, that you don't make throws that are there or anything like that. But I think building, again, on what they did Saturday night, trying to get this thing to a place where you feel like you can go out and compete with the very best teams out there, the Oregons, the Ohio States, the Texases, whoever else you want to throw into that group. I'm really curious to see this Georgia-Tennessee game, and we'll talk more about the rest of the country here coming up shortly.
Correct.
But to me, Penn State, focus on the things you can control, go out, put together a sharp performance, get off the field, get the starters out of there as quickly as you can, ideally right after that first drive of the third quarter, and move on. That's the hope for Saturday.
A couple things I always say. As an offensive lineman, we would have goals. Perfect game. 250 rushing, 250 passing, 0 penalties, 0 sacks.
Yep.
So that's a great opportunity to go after that this weekend. As an offensive lineman, that would be our goals that we would have had back in the day. They're attainable now to this day, so let's go out and try to do that and hold ourselves accountable. But you said it, and that is get in, get out, do the job, do it quick. Just make it a quick whooping.
Yep.
And let's get home, get nobody hurt, and get ready for the next 2 weeks.
I think that's
Yes,
probably the biggest key.
That'd be my favorite part
for the game.
Yeah.
Just try to do a couple things at once here. Goon, you want to talk a little bit about your Eagles tonight take on the Commanders. This is one of the better Thursday night games. I'm not a fan of,
No,
and I know you're not either, of the Thursday night games. And I do worry in a game like this where you have, like these games, honestly, should not be played on Thursdays.
This has got Jacksonville and New Orleans written all over it, in my opinion. But you're going to have the two top teams in the NFC East getting after it. The one thing I'm missing is, the Eagles have had a bye week. The Redskins are they're on their, I believe they're 7-3 or 6-3, and the Eagles are 6-2. So that extra game that they played, and then the Eagles have actually had some recovery time. I talked about this on Tuesday a little bit. They have had a bye week this year. The Redskins have not had a bye.
Yeah.
So they've gone 9 straight games, maybe I'd say 6-3. So they're 9 straight games. This is 10 weeks in a row, and you're playing on a Thursday night after 4 days rest. That's asking a lot, man. And I know it's an easy trip from D.C. to Philadelphia. I get it. Oh, yeah. But again, these games should be reserved for the lesser run teams. But again, who saw Washington being 6-2
or 6-3? Even more so, they just shouldn't be played. Thursday night games.
It's just too much money for them. You know that, man.
Well,
we can go up and down on this. The big bad wolf is the NFL. They saw an opportunity. Hell, we started our show 5 years ago. Gambling wasn't legal then, right? And now you can't watch a freaking broadcast of anything.
The warp speed with which things have changed from again, if you go back, even 5-10 years ago, but if you take like a 40-year window here,
yep,
the degree in which sports and society at large, the things that as a kid I would have thought, just because it was so ingrained that no, you can't pay student athletes. Not to get into social issues, but I'm telling you, as a kid, I truly thought there was no chance in my lifetime that you would see marijuana legalized, period, anywhere in the United States. And I don't want to get into any debates
I'm with you. I know
here. It's just how quickly things that, man, it's like, well, no, there's no way that'll ever pass. We have completely gone the other way and in the sports world, it is wild.
I have an honest question for you. I want to circle back to all of this because I love this conversation. But I have a question.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin and Denver, marijuana use is legal. And a lot of states it is.
Yeah.
It's open, whatever. You play for the Denver Broncos, then you get drug tested? Are they? I don't even think the NFL is even testing for marijuana anymore. I don't even know if the NCAA
That's a good question.
is.
I don't know.
I really don't know if the NCAA is even testing for it.
I think the NCAA still is.
But is it different in a state where it's legal?
No, it's still. The NFL doesn't allow.
The entity of the NFL says it's still
correct.
Illegal.
And the
I had this conversation
NCAA
with somebody this weekend, and we didn't have an answer. And that's you jogged my mind.
Yeah.
So anybody in Wisconsin, or or Denver, or states where it's legal. I think Emma was saying Washington, but you can just go and just sitting in the middle of the stands at a Washington game, smoking. Smoking's not legal and all that, but are you allowed to vape publicly?
I don't think in the stadiums themselves,
because there's smoke-free environment.
Yeah, there's still rules against. That they're not. They're not doing it in the actual stadiums or arenas legally. They're not doing it in the stadiums.
Yeah, but that was the question I had, was like, could a Denver Bronco, are they tested for marijuana anymore because it's legal to do in Denver? I don't know. You think as the entity of the NFL would say no? Yeah,
I think the league still does.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even test for marijuana anymore. That's just, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. But I don't see guys getting popped for marijuana use anymore. Marijuana use. I see performance-enhancing drugs.
Both the Eagles and the Steelers have, once again, the Eagles tonight. By the way, we will have that game for you starting at 7:30 here on Sports Radio, 98.7 The Fox. Should be a good one. Commanders in danger of losing back-to-back games and maybe seeing that momentum that they had built ebbing a little bit. I'd be curious to see how that one plays out tonight. And then the Steelers, of course, get the Baltimore Ravens at home on Sunday. And Najee Harris did not practice.
Did they move that to a night?
Yesterday, 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday in the Berg.
So Najee is back?
Not back yet. Not sure if he's playing, and obviously,
how's your fantasy?
A little bit of a difference maker. Not good, Goon. Not
Jeff.
Good.
Come on.
I will say, if the Steelers win this game, they are in really good shape. And it's not that it's a disaster if they lose, but you win this game and they are very much in the driver's seat in the AFC North. It is a big game. It is certainly not a game that is going to determine anything in and of itself. But you do feel like if the Steelers get this, for one thing, and I don't think they're all that concerned about perception, but I do think the national perception of, the Steelers are pretenders. I don't know that pretenders in back-to-back weeks beat the Commanders and the Ravens. I think that's a much tougher sell, that Pittsburgh is fraud or anything of the sort. The biggest thing, and there's a lot to watch for in this game. The biggest thing I'm looking for is, does this improved offense that we've seen with Russell Wilson at the helm, is it able to keep pace with the Ravens? Now, when I say keep pace, the other part of that is the Ravens will be going against one of the better defenses in the National Football League. What do the Ravens accomplish here against that Steelers defense? How good does Lamar Jackson look against this defense, and how reliant in this particular game might the Ravens become on his feet versus his arm? Now, he's been throwing the ball very well this season, and I think that's actually going to be one of the key matchups. But part of why I think he's passing so well is they have that running game running at top peak efficiency right now.
Have you watched
Derrick Henry? Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the offensive line. They have a fantastic offensive line. Great tight end play. And then they rock out a 320-pound fullback who was just an offensive lineman but a very athletic offensive lineman at that. Was he a D lineman to begin with? Do you remember? Or was he an O lineman? Do you know?
I don't know.
Goodness gracious. And then you're going to put Derrick Henry there? I mean, it's almost illegal what they do to people. I mean, that dude wears cats down. He wears defenses down on his own. And now you're going to have a 300-pound fullback leading for this guy? Dude, that was an unbelievably great move by the Ravens getting Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And an unbelievably stupid move by Tennessee for letting him go. And was it a money thing with Tennessee? Were they just decided we're not going to be – we're moving on? We don't want to pay anybody that kind of money? I mean,
it's –
wow.
Yeah.
They didn't trade him, right? It was free agency.
And with running backs, it's – right. That's
I guess they did. Tennessee picked up Pollard, so I guess they had a good, nice little. They didn't want to pay two guys, but you're releasing Derrick Henry, and I know that he's at that threshold of that like 30-year window of when they start going downhill. But I do not see him slowing down at all. God Almighty, does he play a hell of a game?
Yeah.
And is Highsmith playing?
I don't know.
Oof, that ankle looked bad, man. It looked.
I mean,
bad. I told you Tuesday. I thought it was his knee, and then I saw the way he was reacting with holding his leg and ripping his helmet off. That had visions of an ACL, but then they showed the replay, and you saw that it was his foot, which is actually sometimes in that position is worse than a broken foot.
Yep, and we'll see if I'd be curious also. The Bills-Chiefs game is getting a
heck of a weekend.
A lot of
college is weak.
Hype.
NFL games are pretty legit this weekend.
Yeah, it's a pretty good weekend for NFL games.
Yes.
And again, starting with tonight's matchup with the Eagles and the Commanders, and I think chance for Philadelphia to really kind of start separating itself from the field there.
So I'm looking at
the
this.
NFC.
So the Eagles won 8-0 last year to start the season, remember?
Yep.
And then they got beat by the Commanders. And we're almost like 1 year removed from that. And now it's like, okay, we get to the point where see how the Eagles have grown from that game because they've now won 5 in a row. Because they started off pretty slow. They had a good game against the Packers, but I don't know if the Packers lost that game rather than the Eagles winning it in Brazil.
Yep.
And then they had if you remember, they lost the game to Atlanta, I believe. That Saquon dropped a swing pass that would have given them a first down, if not a touchdown, to end the game. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he dropped it as a wide open receiver, and they lost that game because of that, because that game was over right then and there. If he had made that catch, fell forward, and got the first down, boom, game over. He drops it, they have to punt, and then they go down and lose the game. So, in actuality, the Eagles could be 7-1 right now. I'm trying to think who their other loss was to, but it was early in the year. But, God, I was watching Hurts on Sunday. And I remember I'm texting my buddy Johnny and Billy, and I'm sitting there going, man, dude, Hurts is awful today. And then he just decides to go completely role reversal on me, and then turns into Patrick Mahomes out there and plays the game that he is very, very good at. And that is, if he has a run game and that run game is working, it's the same thing as the Ravens. It really opens up what Jalen Hurts can do well, and that's play action pass, RPO, run pass option stuff. But if you have a damn good running game with Saquon Barkley and an offensive line making holes and they're making yards on them, that opens up your receivers, your tight ends. I like the way they're playing right now, but tonight is a big, big, big test. I mean, the Commanders, they're easily – I'm not saying that Detroit's a surprise team this year. I think the Commanders are the surprise team. Would you?
I
saw Detroit doing what they're doing.
Well, yeah,
but
I would
not to
agree.
the extreme that Detroit is doing. I mean, if I told you 1 year ago, Jeff, hey, Indiana University of Football, not Pennsylvania, Indiana University, Indiana, would be 10-0 and ranked 5th in the country, and the Detroit Lions are 8-1. Would you believe me?
Well, yeah, I tried to tell everybody at the start of this season. Remember on that one show I was telling you, look out, I think Indiana's going to be 10-0 going into that Ohio State. No.
Your futures bets all came in week 4. Yes. It was perfect for you, man.
No question about it.
I would like to go back and see what Indiana's futures were, because no one saw this.
Not this. Well,
did they?
Although, no, except for their head coach. Signetti he was talking a very big game before they ever played their first game about that everything has changed. We are a contender. I mean, he was talking the talk, and to his credit, he has walked the walk and then some with this team this season. I mean, his players have backed him up and
after a game one time earlier this year, and he told a reporter, he's like, "Bro, look up my record. I win. I score points." And that's what he said. It's exact, bro. I win. Yeah. Look me up. And I was like, damn, that's a arrogant, confident man right there. And did I tell you that I looked him up? It blew my mind because, I mean, I haven't seen Indiana play. It just hasn't happened this year where we could watch them. I guess I watched a lot of that Nebraska game, but but my little brother and then my buddy Sorber, he's a PSAC guy, so he's always like, oh, he coached at IUP and JMU. He's a lower level football guy. And I was like, oh man, that's great. Well, Signetti's going to get paid by somebody. And I was like, I looked him up to see, what's he, like 30, younger 40? Yeah. Dude, he's 62. He has been around a long time. Alarming to me. I was taken aback by it. I was like, damn, I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah, Dan Patrick had him on, I think it was earlier this week. It might have been last week, but I think it was earlier this week. And Dan Patrick's line to him was something along the lines of, boy, you sure have been toiling a long time to be an overnight sensation.
Yeah, I was going to say, where the hell you been?
And, he said, yeah, there's different and they were talking about it, how things develop. And Signetti, to his credit, because Patrick was like, how in the world, why in the world did it take you this long to get this type of a break in a D1, big time program like this? And Cignetti, again, I think largely to his credit, well, different things happen. And he said he really was not looking to leave James Madison. He really was very content there. But then Indiana came to him, talked about the commitment that they wanted to make, the improvements they wanted to make. And, he said it's not like he was sitting there saying, boy, I got to get an opportunity here in, he was FBS content. Big time and all that. And it is going to be interesting to see because he is going to be a very hot commodity after this season wraps up. I think it's going to be interesting to see, one, who goes after him, and two, kind of what he decides. Because you do get the feeling, I get the feeling, that wherever he goes, and I am presuming that he is going to go because I think there's going to be somebody backing up substantially more money than Indiana, although apparently Indiana backed up a pretty good truck of money to him. But I think he will envision wherever he goes, and maybe he's envisioning Indiana, but wherever he goes is this is my final stop, and we'll see what we can do over the next 10 years or so.
Off the top of your head, give me 5 schools that are going to open up.
Yeah, we were kicking that around a little bit.
I think Florida has come out and said they're going to back Napier.
It is so hard to. Let's start with. All right. Let's just start with the places that we think could open up.
The low-hanging fruit.
USC certainly appear. I think this whole story with Lincoln Riley coming out and the penalties does that and. This has been talked about throughout the week that, boy, that sure feels like they are laying the groundwork for we have cause here to make the move. That is what that story coming out this week, the capitulation, if you will, by the university, that's what that feels like to me. I think they are ready to move on from Lincoln Riley. They have new administration in place. That just feels like, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked, and I think they want to get somebody new in. I think the battle is going to be what the payout looks like there at this point for Lincoln Riley, and I think there will be a fight there. But that's that seems like one that is going to come open. I think that's right. I think this was the
God, his star falling quick.
Well,
God,
yeah, which is what happens.
Wow, that's
when the expectations are what they are in today's world of college football.
Let me try to think about this. Now, did he not get hired the year that James got his extension? What year were we in the extension then? It might be 4 years he's been there. But I thought he had Caleb Williams when he won the Heisman at USC. Or did he win the Heisman at Oklahoma? Because he left Oklahoma on some pretty bad damn terms. All right, so that's one that you're talking about right there. I think that Florida has come out backing Napier, saying they're going to give him more time. And I personally believe is that Florida does not have this kind of money. I guess that I had talked to somebody about it, and we had talked about they're still paying Mullen.
Yeah, this is his third season at
third year.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. So I thought that James was up for that USC job, and that's why they gave him the extension, the 10-year job. But I thought we were farther in than 7 years. Or 3 years in, so oh well. But Napier, I think that I read that they're going to back him, and I believe that is because they don't have the money, because they're going to have to buy him out. They've already bought Mullins out, and they're going to have a third coach just say they have to go buy him out from somebody, and then they got to pay him. And as somebody told me, Florida has got money. They don't have Texas-type money. Texas being the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And I completely I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I think you're damn right. I think you're 100% right. That's why they're back in Napier. Norville at Florida State. I know that he is as down as you get right now, but this guy was he was undefeated last year.
Undefeated.
And then his whole team left, and I just like they just quit on him. But he had problems since the day he got there. Do you remember he made a statement about the team, about him having these players' backs and this and that? And one of the players came out like publicly, like an angry D lineman, and was like, "That's a lie, coach. You don't do that. You don't know." And I was like, it's just always seemed like he's always had a bad feel at Florida State. And then going undefeated last year obviously helped his cause. Well, I think he's bought another year or two. But, I mean, they're Kelly at LSU.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So they have
it's crazy.
Florida. They're at Florida this Saturday, which that's a really intriguing
Losers
game.
Canned at halftime.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Then they're home with Vanderbilt, and then they're home with Oklahoma. So this season can still break. I mean, it's not going to be, I don't think, a playoff season with the 3 losses, but this could still break like badly enough that yes, like if they win the final 3 games, I know they're not satisfied. I know they're not happy, but I can't envision them getting rid of Brian Kelly with a 9-3 mark.
And the money they paid and invested in him is just out of control.
But if they lose a couple of these games down the stretch, and I think that's unlikely, but it's not out of the question. Again, I would argue all 3 of those games are. I think LSU will win all 3, but could you see Florida beating them? Vanderbilt certainly, and Oklahoma again, especially if LSU is in a bit of a tailspin at that point.
Vanderbilt beats them. They would have beaten Auburn, Alabama, and LSU in the same season. I'm not going to say that's never happened, but it probably never happened.
Well, and what is interesting, so we were. I'll tell you what, let's take a break here. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the college football playoffs. And inevitably, right, no matter who's on the playoff committee, no matter what they drop, there's going to be complaints. People think that it's not this way or it is this way and it should be that way. I think that is one of the most difficult things to fairly and accurately assess is, all right, who should the top 12 teams, and whether you want to do it by who are the top 12 that really belong for a championship, or who are the most deserving based on the overall results. And even that, I mean, you can split some hairs there. It's like, well, this team was really impressive, but they never got really tested, or only got tested that one game type of thing. And another team that, and Georgia is one of those teams that, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that, Georgia is still one of the best teams in the country. Are they this season? And I'm not just the 2 losses. Go back and look at some of they were not overwhelming by any stretch in several of their wins this year either. Is there a lot of talent in Georgia? Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent at USC too. This year, I'm not sure that Georgia is one of the top teams in college football. We'll kick that around when we come back, because I do think it is really, I think it's harder to establish a legitimate season by season analysis of, all right, these are the best teams, because of some unique obstacles to making those assessments accurately in college football compared to pretty much any other sport out there. We'll pick that up on the other side of this timeout. You are listening to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show We are at Quaker Steak and Lube.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox, the Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon ahead of the Penn State-Purdue game in West Lafayette on Saturday. Again, a 3:30 kickoff on CBS. Penn State coming in at 8-1 on the season. The Boilermakers are 1-8 on the season. And yeah, Penn State, again, just needs to take care of business. Go in there, do what you're expected to do. Get the starters off the field in pretty early fashion, avoid injuries, avoid mistakes, and move on and get ready.
Correct.
For Minnesota the following week, which really I think is the last even potential stumbling block to Penn State getting that home playoff game here in 2024. All right. The playoff rankings, I know there's different people making different cases for different teams. How could you have playoffs without Georgia? This is a great Georgia team, beat an outstanding Texas squad and all that. Yes, beat Texas, great moment. But the overall resume for Georgia this season, Texas win is great. They beat Kentucky by a point. Well, Kentucky's really Kentucky's dangerous, but they're not setting the world on fire here.
Yep.
And I think, in fact, I had it. They're 3-6 on the season, 1-6 in SEC play. So
you're talking about Kentucky, who plays teams very, very, very tough.
Yeah, but that's so again, that's a 1-point win that Georgia had against a team that is 1-6 in the SEC. I think a lot of people's reaction to Georgia, and first of all, Georgia controls its own fate. They beat Tennessee this week. They're back in the top 12 seeds, and they will be one of the 12 teams at the end of the season. But I don't think their overall resume is as impressive as what some are making it out to be. They only beat Mississippi State by 10 points, and that's not a good Mississippi State team this year. And it's not just that they lost to Ole Miss. That was not a competitive game. I mean, Ole Miss, and again, any given day, I'm not saying if they played again this week that Georgia couldn't reverse its fortune against them, but that's 2 losses, and in one of them, they really weren't very competitive. I mean, that was not a nail-biter of a game there.
But guess what? They beat Tennessee this weekend. They're right back up in there.
Yeah, and they're sitting there with 2 losses. But
we've reversed the SEC and the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, but I think so. This is one of the things, because there's been a lot of debate, and truthfully, you can debate this all you want, and you can have, and people do, and I have my opinions on this, but how do you accurately and truly fairly compare Indiana's resume with Georgia's this season? Well, Indiana's undefeated. Georgia has 2 losses. Well, right. But every one of us would agree Georgia's played a much tougher schedule. Okay. But Indiana has blown out all of its opponents. What is really difficult is in college football in particular, because like college basketball, you're playing everybody else in your conference, or the majority of teams in your conference. With the new expanded conferences, and again, it's the luck of the draw. Penn State doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's not playing Oregon or it's not playing Indiana on a year where Indiana's having an historically great season. Penn State has nothing to do with that. They didn't put the schedule together, and normally you'd be saying, oh, man, I wish we had Indiana on the schedule. Well, it turns out this year is one of those few times. And normally you'd be like, man, I'm glad Michigan's not on the schedule. Well, this year, I think, given its druthers, Penn State, let's get Michigan on the schedule here.
Nice.
So that's one of the things is it is hard to know one season or the next, and even more so in this day and age of college football with the transfer portal and coaches and kids leaving, coming and going, one season or the next. Florida State, if you played them last year, oh, man, is that a marquee matchup. You play them this year, oh, man, are you getting a patsy. That's 1 year. We were arguing about whether they should be playing for the national title last year. Now we're arguing whether there's any chance Mike Norvell keeps his job. And even week to week, and we've talked about this, like USC now is not the same USC that Penn State faced, which isn't to say that the USC that Notre Dame faces couldn't be even better than the USC that Penn State faced. On a given day, Louisville, dangerous team. They've had some great moments this year. Vanderbilt had a great moment. It's had, it's a much better team. It's not a playoff contending team. It's not so you look at it and it's like, well, I mean, Penn State, who have they beaten? And, even USC took them to overtime. Well, yep, I would argue USC played a really good game that day. Obviously, the trip and all that factors into it. But there's nobody, I would argue, Oregon included, where you're just like blown away week in and week out. Man, this team consistently great. I don't think there is a team in college football. Again, I watched a good bit of that BYU-Utah game. That particular night, I'm telling BYU does not look like a playoff team to me. I think they'll stumble here down the stretch. But this is where I do think the potential for some really interesting discussions, and I think I know the way those discussions will end, which is, hey, Big Ten and SEC, congratulations. Oh, ACC runner-up? Sorry about that. Big 12 runner-up? Sorry about that.
They don't take care of their
But
own.
here's the thing. So Notre Dame's schedule has not been good. And they have a loss to Northern Illinois. I would argue, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it's fun to play some of the hypothetical games. If BYU does run the table, and it's certainly possible, and then loses, let's say, a controversial game in the Big 12 championship, or let's say like an SMU and Miami play in the ACC championship game. And let's say that, again, there's a controversial ending and SMU wins a squeaker, but everybody feels like, man, Miami really got the raw end of the deal on a call down the stretch.
All right.
Potentially, you have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback with Miami as well. So and we've talked about, are you going to punish teams for playing in conference championship games? So if a BYU goes undefeated during the regular season and loses to whoever they would lose to in the Big 12 championship game, very close, very competitive, are you going to look at that entire resume and say definitively Notre Dame is more deserving? And presuming Notre Dame gets to 11-1, which I'm not presuming that, because I do think that USC game, I think they will beat Army. I'm rooting like crazy, hoping Army pulls it off, and I would love that story. Don't think it's going to happen. I think USC is a really dangerous game for Notre Dame here at the end of the year. But let's just say Notre Dame does go undefeated. But let's say maybe they don't look. Let's say they win by a field goal over Army and a field goal over USC. And let's say BYU gets on a run here and does close out with 3 victories and all comfortably. Like, I know Notre Dame will go. I understand that. That's not the debate. My debate is, how do you compare BYU and Notre Dame when I don't think there's any common opponents. Maybe there's one. And you can do this across the board. Again, a 2-loss Georgia team with a 1-loss Big 12 or ACC team. I get the schedule's going to be tougher, but I just don't know how you fairly or accurately try to assess, all right, this team, well, the eye test, Ironhead. Sometimes you just know. Well, which eye test? Am I going to use the eye test that I saw Georgia get blown out by Mississippi pretty well? Or am I going to use the eye test in that Georgia-Texas game where it looked like Georgia was running circles around Texas? Which eye test are we using here? Am I going to use the eye test in that Kentucky game that Georgia won by a point and couldn't get out of its own way offensively? Or am I going to use the eye test? This is what I just think it is really difficult to make any kind of definitive. Well, come on, and
remember now, it changes every year how they.
Well, and what generally it'll come back to is, all right, this is what we think would happen on a neutral field, and while I understand it, and I don't think that's any better or worse than anything else that you can use, I also listen on a neutral field. Or forget the neutral field. Anywhere. Do you think Northern Illinois is beating Notre Dame? Well, No, Ironhead, that's ridiculous. Alabama, Vanderbilt, we put them at, who do you think's going to win that? Well, Alabama, of course. Well, okay, except we saw those games happen. Penn State, Bowling Green. Well, obviously, Penn State did get it, to their credit, but by the skin of their teeth. So there are things that we think will happen. The eye test, I don't love that. And again, but I don't know what you use, because unlike the NFL, where you have relatively comparable schedules. Yep, some teams are going to get some breaks on the schedule, but they're comparable. The worst schedule and the best schedule are not miles apart.
And it comes down to record and stuff like that.
Yes, and that's a little more clear cut, because again, it's 32 teams. You're all playing 17-team schedules. You're getting a pretty good idea. When you have as many teams as you have in FBS football, and you have as disparate schedules, and by the way, it's disparate schedules for a variety of reasons, but a lot of it is not the result of anything the school is or isn't doing in a given year. Again, the conference schedules are determined by the conference, but even the non-conference schedules, again, depending on when like Notre Dame wasn't scheduling Northern Illinois with the idea of, boy, we're going to give ourselves a really big test here, right? Penn State wasn't scheduling Bowling Green with the idea, man, we're really going to test ourselves and see how we respond in the second half. When teams were scheduling Florida State this year, they weren't doing it with the idea, wow, we get a sure W there. So that's the other part of this, is even the parts you control. Well, yeah, you went out and scheduled a bunch of patsies. Well, maybe it ended up being a bunch of patsies. Maybe that wasn't the intent, or maybe it was the intent, and, well, this is the year you caught. Again, if you were scheduling SMU 5 years ago, you weren't scheduling that to get a really good test for your football team, but now you're getting a really good test for your football team. And again, it can change quickly, like overnight, with the results. So I just think in some ways it is impossible, right, to make an objective comparison.
Yeah, and then what gets me is that if you have the mold, not the mold, but the way you think about it is last year they looked at Florida State, the quarterback got hurt. Were they the right team to go into the playoffs and this and that? They made the decision not to, because they were not the same team. But that was different than the year before, and that was different than the year before that, and this year is different than them. We don't know, and sometimes they change week to week. You ever notice that? They're like, oh, well, that meant something. Well, that's not what you said last week. So I wouldn't want their job. Now, if we're going to get to the point where we're going to go to the NFL mold, yes, let's do that, because you have a schedule. It's comparable. Yeah, it's you're not playing game for game against the same opponent, but it's 17 games.
Yeah,
versus 12. And then they're picking the games. You're not picking three patsies like we can do here that we do at Penn State. And then you have your 9 conference games. SEC's 8 and 4. What is the ACC? What is the SEC? The Big 12. What makes me upset is that it's a moving target at all times, and the guy in charge of the whole thing will say one thing one week and then say the complete contradictory thing the next week, and you're like, but it's to predict it is what we're saying. But for us, I don't care. We win, we're in, right?
For sure.
But it's a question of, you said SMU and Miami. Okay, SMU, what if they lose? You said they win a controversial game in a tight game versus Miami. SMU's undefeated. No one can say you're not invited. But what if Miami wins that on a controversial call? Now they both have 1 losses. So SMU goes undefeated except for 1 controversial game in a conference title game.
SMU has 1 loss already on this season. There's we're down to 4 undefeated. It's Oregon, Indiana, which how many people have Indiana and Army on their scorecard is and BYU for that matter. But those are the 4 undefeated teams now in college football.
Okay,
I think SMU actually lost to BYU in a really close game early in the
They play a lot
season.
of religious games, don't they?
They do.
They play Utah in the Holy War, then they play the SMU. I talked to you Tuesday about SMU, correct? Of what Bauer said? Or was that off the air?
No, that was on.
And the more you think about it, man, Trey Bauer the other night on my radio show, a TV show with the Players Show, said the sleeping giant among sleeping giants is SMU with the NIL, because there is so much money in the state of Texas, and that's religious money. And we talked about, well, what about Texas A&M? And people say that Texas A&M is so off the beaten path, like it's worse than Penn State, like in the middle of nowhere type of thing, where it's tough to get guys to go there. Where SMU's in Dallas. And they have a lot of money. That they have a lot of alumni who have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's why Trey was like, they are an absolute sleeping giant. And Baylor might be in the same boat as them if they get the right people there. So, again, I mean, it's like having the polls August, and you're like, oh, well, Florida State was the 6th team in the country. How wrong were they?
Pretty wrong.
It's just like that first game was like, oh, it's a complete upset. Looking back on it, that's not an upset at all. Georgia Tech's better than them. Boston College is better than them. Why do we have preseason polls? If we just wait till the second week of October and after 5 or 6 games, then we can make our determinations. I think that's a little bit better, but then it doesn't give all these TVs up here, people talking about the same stuff all week, and me and you will be out of jobs.
I also do think the history inevitably matters, right? Like the reason people are thinking Georgia's getting the short shrift here is because what they've done in recent years. I think it's also why Indiana arguably isn't getting the respect it deserves.
Did somebody say Blue Bloods? 5. I think somebody made a comment that they really, really pander to the Blue Bloods.
But in a given season, should that really be done? Because
should play out. I mean, we got 3 more games to go with conference titles. There's 4 more games. Again, it's inevitable. We pick a 14 playoff. There's going to be 5 and 6 pissed off. We pick a 12-team tournament. 14, 13, 15, and 15 are going to be pissed off. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
I make everybody happy. I don't like, my personal opinion, I don't like having to put a non-Power 5 conference team in there. If they're worth being in the top 15, they'll get put in there. But don't just say that they're the best team. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I also do think you want representation because
you want players thinking that they have a shot. Yes, I get that. That's always been your argument.
And also I do think there is that bias in favor of the Big Ten and the SEC and the Blue Bloods in that. For example,
the victors make the rules.
I think Indiana has a very strong case that at the moment, now
they should be ahead of Penn
State.
At
the end of the year, it's not going to matter. I understand that. But yes, I think right now, based on the resumes to this point, this season, I think Indiana has the better overall resume.
I got to see them next to each other. Who are you saying that Indiana's beaten and we have?
Well, Indiana has – so neither team has defeated a ranked opponent.
Correct.
So let's start there. Indiana is winning more consistently, impressively. I'm pulling up their schedule here. But now, do I think it's a grave injustice?
The shellacking they gave Nebraska was eye-opening to me. That's when I said, "Holy crap!"
Yeah,
these guys are these guys are for real.
But what is amazing, well, I find it amazing, is the lack of common opponents with 2 teams that are in the same conference. So
18-team conference. You're literally not playing half your conference.
Correct. And I'm telling you, listen to the teams here. I mean, there are obviously have some common opponents. Trying to go through here quickly.
They beat Iowa?
What the number? But here's their results. They beat Florida International to open the season 31-7. Western Illinois 77-3. I get it's Western Illinois. 77-3. UCLA 42-13. Common opponent. Indiana faring very well there. Beat Charlotte 52-14. Beat Maryland 42-28. Beat Northwestern 41-24. drubbed Nebraska 56-7, beat Washington 31-17.
That's 3 common opponents.
And beat Michigan State 47-10.
So we're going to have 3 common opponents. That's it. In the same conference.
Well, and then, Ohio State and Purdue. To finish the season.
All right.
So, but so how do you accurately, again, compare Penn State and Indiana?
It's because we were ranked higher in the beginning of the season, has to be, and they've worked their way up for each win, and they still haven't caught up to us. Yes.
And Penn State, I know Penn State fans don't want to hear this, but actually acquitted itself very well against Ohio State, which is, I think I saw, is actually the betting favorite to win the national title right now.
Ohio State
this season, yeah.
You didn't like my predictions the other night.
I was so on your prediction.
Come on now. I liked them. I have Ohio State coming from the Big Ten though.
As the champion.
As the champion.
Yeah.
So that throws Oregon in this because you threw me for a loop.
How did I throw you?
You said Saturday night Penn State football game.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like December 21st, Saturday night. I'm crazy. I don't think I'm that crazy.
I think you're that crazy.
Oh, I would definitely be doing it, but I don't know if I could do it from 7 o'clock in the morning like I normally do.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, this week took a lot out of me.
I know that it did.
Oof. But like an 8 p.m. national game versus a Southern opponent. I mean, they wouldn't do that to somebody from the SEC, right? They wouldn't do Ole Miss dirty like that, or Alabama or Texas. Well, Texas, I think, is going to win the conference, but somebody's got to play a night game on Saturday night.
The ratings, I mean, it'll depend, obviously.
And that's why I had Oregon losing, and then they would have the Friday night or the Saturday night game out west. Now, I'm just trying to think who the Friday night game would be, because Penn State will never have it. I just don't think they would do it. Now, it's not Penn State's call. I get it.
Yeah,
but
I tend to agree with you.
It's just tough to get here, and then all day of tailgating, and then all day of traveling on a Friday when people are working on short notice type of thing. I don't know if they could do that. They could do it in Indiana because they're used to playing those night games on Fridays. Notre Dame, probably not. Ohio State, probably not. Oregon, probably not. So there you go. There's our answer. If Indiana hosts,
I could see Oregon actually
a Friday night game.
Yeah, I could.
Those libs out there don't work anyway. So right
there you go. Yeah. I don't know. That'll be
dude. I'm telling you, you got me in my head. I was like, God, who is going to have that Saturday night?
Well, the reason I do think Penn State would get serious consideration for that is the network would love the whiteout atmosphere, like having that as your finale for the opening weekend of the opening college football, 12-team college football playoff would be pretty spectacular. And if it was Penn State versus any SEC school, that's, or Notre Dame. I mean, you're talking about a ratings bonanza. Now, probably wherever you
Jeff,
put
how
that
long
game.
have I asked for this? When this came out a year and a half ago, did I not say this is my world's perfect scenario? And it's coming to fruition, buddy.
Just need to take care of business.
You got to take care of business. And the SEC just needs to take care of SEC business.
Yeah,
but did you notice my predictions? I had 4. 3 of the teams traveling were the SEC teams. They had no home games in the South. Notre Dame.
I think that's going to be, right now, I think that's likely going to play out.
And that's not very, I guarantee you they're not happy about it. They are not happy about it because they've made the rules for so long, in my opinion, with the stacking up the playoffs and stuff like that, with how they vote their teams. And they're going to put Georgia as high as they possibly can because if Tennessee wins, they want them higher. That's just how the SEC has customarily worked, in my opinion. They always take care of their lesser teams by rating them as high as they possibly can. So when they do get a victory over them, they look at this victory over number 7. You're like, dude, they stink. But and again, I've told you, the reversal of the Big Ten. I mean, us not playing 8 Big Ten teams, like, think about that. We do not play 8 Big Ten teams. And that just goes back to the SEC when Georgia and Alabama never freaking played. Ever. It's always used to drive me nuts. But now they are playing because they bought in Oklahoma and Texas, and there's that's 2 teams you can't lay down on.
Yeah. So let's start here, too. I think we would agree that if Indiana is at least competitive with Ohio State and then beats Purdue in the season finale, and Penn State does win the final 3 here, the Big Ten is getting 4 teams in the playoffs. Like, as long as Indiana doesn't get its doors blown off. And it's going to be interesting if they do get their doors blown off, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think
doors blown off, I'm saying 3 touchdowns or more. I'm not saying
you think they get them out of the.
I don't know. I think it becomes a really interesting story then, because
it's a hell of a scenario you're bringing up.
You would have an 11-1 team in one of the generally considered, and I think pretty hard to argue against, one of the top 2 conferences out there, and I think Indiana would be in, even if it's a blowout loss. But I don't think, I think it's a certainty. If they lose by 14 or less, to me, and then beat Purdue, they're in. I don't see how you can leave an 11-1 Big Ten team out if they were.
But you can make an argument why they could, though.
Well, you can listen. I'm telling you could make the argument as well with any of the 2-loss SEC teams. Either way, but let's just say for the moment that Indiana does lose, and it's a competitive game, and everybody agrees that they're in.
Everybody's in.
Penn State's in. Oregon and Ohio State are in. So you have the 4 Big Ten teams, virtual locks. If Texas loses to Texas A&M or to Vanderbilt, they lose another game here down the stretch.
Yep.
And you end up with 6. Is there a scenario? I think you can have 7 2-loss SEC teams here, meaning 2 losses overall on their resume. I'm not talking in the SEC. I'm talking 6 or 7 10-2 SEC teams going in before the SEC championship game. There's a couple of, I think, really interesting discussions there in terms of how this thing plays out, because they really are knocking each other off. And I don't think it's going to be clear-cut that, all right, well, my gosh, yeah, this team has 2 losses, but this team. Now, like a Missouri is going to be easier for sure to bypass with their overall schedule and the eye test and all of that. But if you get to Ole Miss, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M.
Okay, and they beat Texas.
Yes.
They're making a hell of a jump.
So that's 6 teams, though. You tell me out of those 6, like which 2 are you saying are definitively, well, yeah, they're out. And for that matter, which 4, or even give me 2 that you're like, well, that team has to be it.
I mean, think about the victories that Georgia would have. Think about the victories that Texas would have. Alabama has a bad loss versus Vanderbilt. That's going to hurt them. But they all have monster wins over each other now. Don't get me wrong. But
if you
it's the 2-loss, I'm going to use, because it's in my head, and that's Texas A&M, and they beat Texas. They're at 14 right now. They'll be 8, 9. Wouldn't have to play in the SEC title game, and they have 2 losses. They're going to go.
Yeah.
Because they would have a victory over the number 1 team and the number 2 team in the country in Texas. I mean, does that enough to jump at Indiana or a Penn State? Oh,
it's going to be fun. It is going to be
fun.
I
can't wait. It's going to be. I mean, we have stuff to talk about the next month and a half. You know that. We're okay with that because the scenarios that can go down are insane.
Yeah.
I think I saw the article last week that there was 9 2-loss teams. That it was the scenario got blown up a little bit last week, but there was a scenario they would have 9 2-loss SEC teams that they all have arguments.
as will, I would argue, potentially one-loss teams in SMU or Miami. Again, one of them presumably is going to be ACC
I think everybody
champion.
in the country knows that Miami's a patsy. I really do.
But here's the thing. I agree that is the national perception, and I share that perception
of us too, by the way.
Yes, to a very large degree. I have that perception of BYU, and again, in fairness, I watched basically the second half of their game with Utah, and it's not that I think BYU is an awful team. That did not look like a playoff team to me. Like, that's not a team that I'm looking at and boy, I could see them getting hot and winning a national title. Obviously, if they go undefeated and they win the Big 12, they're in, and we'll get to see up close. But I do think there are going to be some interesting discussions and debates. Let's say Army loses a competitive game to Notre Dame, a field goal, and then wins its conference. And I think they're not in, but do I think there's a compelling argument to be made there? Probably. How Boise State finishes up too is, I think, going to be worth watching.
Who is Army going to play in the AAC title?
Potentially, it could be Navy.
And then play again a week later.
Correct. That is still a possibility. Yep, that is still a possibility. All right, we'll take a break here.
The smoke coming out of my head right now. Jesus.
Lots going
impressive,
on.
Buddy.
We will take a break here again. We are coming back with much more. It is our Thursday edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Lots more to get to. We'll talk some wrestling with the NWCA All-Star Classic coming up tomorrow night, which you can hear right here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. That and much more on the other side of this timeout.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25 APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Lusk & Associates Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, Huntington. The Fox, your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7, The Fox, State College, the Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon. Penn State Purdue 3:30 kickoff on Saturday, and tonight the Eagles and the Commanders. Again, we'll have live coverage of that game here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox. Steelers and the Ravens on Sunday at 1 in Pittsburgh.
I have it because they just had Penn State versus Purdue in the year 2000 on TV here with Drew Brees. And I got a great story about that game. I wasn't in here. I just heard about it because I was away coaching. The headsets weren't working on the sideline. And Joe Serra, God rest his soul, but he was an absolute maniac as a defensive line coach.
Yeah.
They said that he was hanging out of the press box screaming. Now, this is late in the game. Purdue has the ball inside their own 10 with less than a minute to go with Drew Brees as your quarterback. And Buddy is hanging out of the window going, they're gonna pass. They're gonna pass. And he's like trying to get his defensive lineman to like see him in the press box hanging out the window with him telling them that they're going to pass the ball with Drew Brees, less than a minute to go in the game and down by a touchdown. I'm not going to say they had a pretty good idea he was going to be throwing the ball, but thank God Buddy was there to let them remind them that they were going to throw the ball. That's
of the pass.
Literally my favorite Buddy story and a lot of Buddy stories are out there.
Oh, well, I've got some good ones too, but
they're going to pass. They're gonna pass. Do you think so?
Just a hunch.
I think Bledsoe's gonna run the clock out. Run an RPO option. I don't know something's gonna happen out there.
Take a knee.
Jeez. So you got a big weekend.
Very big weekend.
Last week was my big weekend. This one's yours. So you got what? Friday night.
Well, Friday night, I won't be so. Actually, for me, it'll be a big Friday night because I normally do not get to see my kiddo do the rock climbing class that he's doing down at Nittany Climb because I'm otherwise occupied on Friday night. So we will go to that. I will be keeping tabs closely on State College football. The Little Lions will travel to Williamsport in the opening round of the PIAA state playoffs in the 6A ranks. Winner moves on to the quarterfinals next week, and I do like State High's chances in this one. I think it's a favorable matchup for the Little Lions, even though that game will be at Williamsport, so it'll be a true road game for State College, true home game for Williamsport, but State High has a lot of playmakers this year, and they have really been playing exceptionally good football here down the stretch.
Well, Sal's already done.
Yeah.
They lost their prep last week. You were watching it in my tailgate, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. We're watching high school football games at a Penn State tailgate. Just technology, buddy.
It is.
But that was the 6A state title game, in my opinion.
I pretty much agree. Yeah,
it was there for the boys, and it didn't happen. So I have heard great things about LaSalle coming ahead. Actually, 3 kids got offered scholarships last week or 2 weeks ago from us. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
But I got a question. You said that the Commanders and Eagles games on Fox Radio tonight, 98.7. Who's broadcasting that? Is it through the NFL properties? Who's
on the
on
radio?
Yeah, is it their call or do you?
No, it's
Because it's not a Fox game, right? It's an NFL network. NFL.
No, we don't. It's a different contract we have for the NFL and college games. Yeah, it's not Fox Sports.
So it's like an NFL broadcast team. So that's what Noble does.
Yeah.
So there must be a Thursday night crew, a Sunday night crew. I don't know.
Yeah, they have 3 games on Sundays, Thursday night game and Monday night, and then separately we have contract.
Yeah, because that's what Noble does. And he always does
games,
Sunday games. I don't know. I didn't know that they do the Thursday games on the radio, but wonder why he never got one of them. But
yeah. So yeah, we'll see how State College fares there. Saturday here on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox, we will have live coverage of the NWCA All-Star Wrestling Classic at Rec Hall. I think it's actually 11 men's bouts now that are scheduled, along with the 5 women's bouts. Of course, 5 Nittany Lions will be competing in the event, including Bo Bartlett at 141, Shane Van Ness at 149, Tyler Kasak at 157, and then Levi Haynes at 174, and Carter Starachi at 184. Again, our coverage will begin at 6:45 Saturday night on Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox, and then we start the dual season for Penn State Wrestling on Sunday against Drexel at 1 o'clock at Rec Hall. That'll be a 12:40 airtime on the Penn State Sports Network. And as I was saying on our morning show today, you don't want to get there late if you're a Penn State fan to Rec Hall on Sunday.
Could be quick.
Drexel is 0-2. They were shut out by North Carolina. Now, North Carolina's got a good wrestling team. I think they're ranked 24th or 25th right now in the country. But if you're getting shut out by North Carolina, that does not bode well with this lineup that Penn State has put together. And even if it is backups, which it is going to be at least a few of the weight classes because of the All-Star Classic being Saturday night, the problem for Drexel is there's not much drop-off at all between the starters and the backups at many of the weight classes now. So
will they try to get some?
There is a chance that this will be.
Well, I guess they're going to have 5 backups anyway wrestling on Sunday because Saturday night.
I don't know that they'll have 5. My guess is we'll have a couple of guys go both Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. But you could have up to 5.
That's just one match, right?
Sure.
Saturday and Sundays.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Now my question: when is Bo's fight? Friday night?
Saturday night.
It is Saturday night,
Yeah,
so that's going to jump right after
the Tyson fight is Friday night.
That's what's Friday.
And then Saturday night is Bo Nickel. Now he won't be fighting until after. Well, that might not be true because I'm not 100% sure what the break schedule is for the NWCA All-Star Classic. I guess I am hoping that we're out of there, 10 o'clock-ish, in which case it will be over in time for the Bo Nickel fight. But listen,
the wrestling club and Happy Valley United are having a party at the Nittany Lion, and if everybody wants to look up Happy Valley United or the wrestling club, they're having a viewing party for Bo's stuff. So I think you'll get both in because he's going to be late in the ticket.
Yes.
He might be fighting at midnight.
Probably, after 11 anyway. So, it'll be very interesting.
I heard it's a pretty tough bout for him.
Fronts.
It's one of his toughest.
It is definitely the toughest one he's had to.
Are you in the MMA at all? Or do you?
I mean, I follow it because of the wrestlers. I'm not passionate about it.
Somebody said that if he gets Bo on the ground and he'll work Bo, and I'm like,
that's a big if.
Bo's pretty good on the mat.
That's also a big if.
Right?
Getting Nickel to the ground is much easier said than done. That's
he's my favorite wrestler in Penn State history, right?
Yeah.
Karchi took me to a match. and he showed up and he had the spiked up hair when he was a freshman. I called him Spicoli from that day on. So I said, Karchi, Spicoli's my guy, because that's when my first bout that I went to, I saw Spicoli go out and wrestle with the long bleach blonde spiky hair. I said, that's my guy, Karchi.
Yeah.
And Karchi always remembered that. Hey, your guy. So
not a bad guy.
I told Bo, I called him Spicoli one day. He's like, what? I said, exactly.
Point made, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, Happy Valley United there. It's an NIL fundraiser for the wrestling guys. So wrestling club, and then right there. So if everybody wants to join in, check it out online. I know that they have some seats available. I mean, you go to the NWCA.
Yeah.
Bang. Leave that and go right next door to the Nittany Lion Inn and watch a Bo Nickel fight with a bunch of ex-Penn State wrestlers. Well, that's a hell of a night right there, buddy.
That's not too shabby of a day or night.
Guess what I'll be doing? Nothing.
Yeah, well,
it's a well-deserved nothing, Jeffrey.
That is fair.
A very, very well-deserved nothing.
Yeah, looking forward to getting the college wrestling season going here, and really looking forward to seeing how a couple of these younger guys in particular, pretty good idea how they're going to look. And listen, they do have battles going on at 157 and 197 for the starting job here. So how that plays out will be, I think it'll be fun for fans to follow. And it's one of those things where you certainly want competition in your room. It is tough when you are, I think, for these coaches and just for the program, because you want all of these guys to, I mean, if you listen to the coaches, Penn State coaches talk it all, they tell you about that they're in it because they want to do everything they can to help these guys fulfill their dreams. Well, if you're not in the starting lineup, you're not fulfilling your dreams. And there's going to be some very good kids with very big dreams that aren't going to be competing, at least this March, for Penn State. And that's tough because I don't think it's a situation where it's one thing if you have a guy who, man, this guy just really wants it and this guy's not putting in the extra time or paying attention to the details. It's just pretty much across the board in that room right now. Talented guys, but guys that are doing all of the little things right, that are making the all-in commitment to being the very best they can be and to giving themselves the best chance, from lifestyle to working on the little things, paying attention to the details, the whole bit. And again, you only have 10 starting spots, and you have a room with probably 20 to 25 guys right now that could start at a ton of colleges, the majority of colleges throughout the country. And so fun for the fans for sure. Very tough, I think, for obviously the wrestlers that aren't in that lineup. And I do think for the coaches, again, it's a nice problem to have, obviously. We have too much talent, but you're working with these kids day in and day out, and you're realizing some of them are not going to be attaining their goals. That's just a tough thing. But it's the nature of the beast. And again, the fun of this season gets underway Saturday night, and I do think a lot of speculation about what is possible for this team. Certainly, I think the potential is there for 10 All-Americans. I think the potential is there to surpass the all-time record for most individuals in one finals, which is 6. I think Penn State can certainly match and
what's
has
the most
a
we've
chance
had
to
in
top
it?
that.
Did we have 7 one time in the last few years in the finals, or it was 5?
No, 6 is the all-time record.
And then it was us?
Well, Penn State, Oklahoma State, and Iowa have all done
and the most we've won was 5, correct?
Most any team has ever won
was Penn State
5 individual titles.
Oh, no.
Penn State's done it twice, Iowa's done it twice, and Oklahoma State did it once.
Yeah, I maybe because I know J-Rob a little bit through Austin, but I love the 10 All-American thing, and I love the story behind it, which is amazing. It's the ultimate team accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you got to love that.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's like an outward goal or an openly expressed, man, we want to do this. But Penn State wants to do this. Penn State wants 10 on the podium. And
10 natties.
Listen, I really do think, and this is just, again, kind of the drive and the passion that these guys bring to it. But unless Penn State wins 10 individual titles, these coaches will tell you, and listen, they're going to feel great about a national title, whether it comes by a single point and with no national champions or anything in between. But I will tell you, if all 10 starters aren't achieving their objective, and all 10 starters this year, I guarantee you, have the objective of winning a national title, there's going to be a small, we're disappointed for that kid. Not saying they're going to be crestfallen and sitting around, wallowing in their sorrows. But when you have the caliber of kids, and caliber both in wrestling ability and just the type of person, character of people that they are, you want to see them all realize their dreams. And so unless you have 10 national champions, again, you're going to be a little disappointed for a kid here or there. But again, I do think this team has a chance. I'm not predicting it, not saying that there's any kind of guarantee or anything, but I think this team has a chance to set the points record again for a second straight season. I think this team has a chance to have 10 on the podium, 10 All-Americans, and I think they have a chance to send 7 or even more into the finals and a chance to win 6 individual titles. If any one of those things happens, that is an historically great accomplishment. If all of those things happen, then you will just have to sit back at the end and recognize that you saw unquestionably the greatest team and the greatest season in the history of the sport. We'll see how it plays out.
That's just massive. It's just so impressive. The whole damn thing.
Well, I did have somebody, and I've been doing a lot of interviews this week, and I'm forgetting now. I might have mentioned a couple of times.
You're interviewing or you're doing the interviewing?
Yes. And it's been brought up that there's obviously a lot of storylines. Curtis Tarachi going after a 5th individual title, the 10 All-American possibility. You have a true freshman trying to get Penn State back where Penn State fans think it should be at 125. You have Gable Steveson, if you didn't see that, the Minnesota heavyweight, after being out of the sport for 2 years, is coming back. And so Greg Kirkfleet's path to a second NCAA title just got substantially more difficult. But I think that storyline of Kirkfleet Steveson is an interesting one. It'll be fun to follow. But the two stories for me that I think are that I'm going to be following and I guess maybe taking the most joy in, and all of the above are sign me up. I want to follow all of them, and I think it's going to be fun. I really think Shane Van Ness is going to I mentioned this a few times last year. I am absolutely convinced that if he had stayed healthy, he was going to win the national title last year. I am absolutely convinced, having seen him in the room a few times now in preparation for this season, that he will win the national title this year at 149. He just is really special. And he's –
But that is about his
injury.
injury?
Stays healthy, he is just a guy – what's that?
Are we allowed to talk about his injury? What was it, if you're allowed to?
I'm not sure
they. Don't say it.
I'm not sure if they're.
It was a finger.
Openly
career-ending finger injuries, baby,
or not. But he is. He's just. I think he is a dark horse here for the Hodge Trophy this year. Like that's the type of season I think Shane Van Ness is going to have. for Penn State.
Where's Shane from?
Really special. Blair Academy is where he made his bones scholastically. I think when you look at 197-2, whether it's Lucas Cochran or Josh Barr, and both those guys have taken another leap forward with their wrestling. But I think they are going to end up, and that is a loaded weight class. 197 is a really good, really deep weight class this year. I think Penn State is going to make a lot of noise in that weight class before it's all said and done. But again, if you're a Penn State fan, following Luke Lillidahl, seeing exactly how he progresses and where he fits in, that's a great storyline. Braden Davis coming off the disappointing, for him, I'm talking about disappointing NCAA tournament, but winning a Big Ten title last year. I think look out for what he can do at 133. Bo Bartlett, the storyline is, can he win a national title? I don't think he's putting any pressure on himself to do that. I think he's going to go out and have a lot of fun. I've mentioned throughout the preseason, I think it's a coin flip between Alirez, Mendez, and Bartlett. And on any given day, any one of those three. But I think those three I think you have three elite wrestlers in that weight class. And I mean, like, all guys that would not surprise me if any one of the three or all three at various times make big-time waves on the international scene here after the collegiate careers wrap up. Again, Shane Van Ness, can he stay healthy and win a title? 157 will be Kasak or Facundo. I think fans have largely gone to sleep on how good Facundo was. I know he didn't get on the podium. He had a really good freshman year and beat a lot of guys that were on the podium. He is an elite wrestler. I think some fans are thinking, because, which is just a ridiculous standard, and it's even understandable to some degree because of the way this program rolls out freshman All-Americans. But you can be an elite wrestler and not get on the podium. And I think we're going to see proof of that this year, both with Braden Davis and with Alex Facundo as the season plays out. And then obviously you have Mitchell Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, Carter Starachi. All three, are capable of doing absolutely anything. And then Greg Kirkfleet, again, the storyline now is, can he knock off Gable Stevenson and Stevenson's final go-around here?
Wrestling's odd, man. How long will he be freshman to finish? 7 years?
Stevenson?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's because of a COVID year. He has an extra year. There's an Olympic year, too, involved with wrestling.
Olympics, yeah. All of it. So, yep.
It's a little different than football.
See how it all plays out. Well, football's been a little different than football lately, too. They've had a lot of 7-year guys, too.
Well, the COVID thing, and they're also doing, like I've told you, a red shirt in college football right now. So back in the day, I could play 4 games, the first 4 games, and then have a medical red shirt. You can get that. You had to apply for it at the end of the year. Now you can play 4 games, and the bowl games don't count.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Which is remarkable. Yeah.
You know how you have first or second semester freshmen coming in here?
Yeah.
You're playing the national title game January 20th. That kid's a student. Is he allowed on the field?
Yeah, I don't think don't think they are. But
they're allowed to practice, I believe.
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break here. We're back with a final segment on this Thursday afternoon. It's the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here from Quaker Steak.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorrento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food. Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food. Get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Lusk & Associates Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox. The Goon and Ironhead.
We welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon and getting ready for what I think is going to be a very fun sports weekend, high school, college, NFL action, and all of the other sports. College wrestling again for Penn State getting underway this weekend. Penn State women's soccer in the NCAA playoffs. Oh, what a shock. 30th consecutive year that Penn State is in the NCAA tournament, and we'll see. It's been a tougher season than I think was expected. Now, they did play a very tough schedule. I'm really curious. I do feel like Penn State is a team that could get on a run here and be a surprise in the NCAA tournament, and obviously
that's why you play a hard schedule.
Yep, could be one and done here as well. I mean, that's I guess kind of the fun of the tournament. I do want to talk a little bit, Goon, about the men's basketball team and what we're seeing here. And again, we'll get a much better idea for where they're really at tomorrow night against Virginia Tech down in Baltimore. But Goon, I really am impressed with we talk a lot about the depth on the football team, the depth on the wrestling team, the depth now in just his second year that Mike Rhodes is accumulating on this basketball roster is pretty doggone impressive. And I think they have come out of the gate strong. I think as some of these guys learn to play together a little more and get a better feel, like I think this thing has a chance to be something really, really special this season. And again, I'm excited about the opportunity tomorrow night and see how they fare here against Virginia Tech.
Again, I told you Tuesday, I don't put anything past Mike Rhodes, man. When it comes to competitiveness and toughness, whether it's in recruiting and practice, this and that, he's going to have these guys performing at a high level. You were both big Pat Chambers fans. Sad to see him go and this and that, but I like where Penn State basketball is right now. I truly, truly, truly do. With Mike at the helm and bringing in his guys right now, because I'm going to tell you, I grew up with guys like Mike and the tough point guards, dude, and that's where your team starts. You can have a Shaq guy in the middle. I was the big guy in the middle, and you ran around. The whole offense ran around your bigger player. But I'm sorry, man, you got a guy who is a point guard, and a point guard head coach is going to sit there and say, you are the leader of this team. Everything starts and finishes with you. And he's going to put that pressure on Ace Baldwin because that was Mike Rhodes. Ace Baldwin is a very, very – now, Mike was a great player. Ace is an even better player, obviously Division I versus Division III. But you see what those guys are doing out there. They're not going to get out-toughed, out-hustled, out-anything. And if they do, Mike will repair that. Trust me.
Yeah.
Love where we're at right now.
Yeah, I do too, I think there's a little different confidence. Dare I use the word swagger within the program right now, and I think I know there's more versatility with the ways they can beat you this year versus last year. That the inside presence is significant, and I get the feeling, Goon, that there is complete buy-in from the players. I think they understand the objectives and what their roles are. And again, I think that this thing, where there have been any issues right now, it's more just a little miscommunication here, miscommunication there. I think that stuff just continues to get better as the season goes along. And I don't want to get too far ahead of things, Goon, but I really think this team, with the way it is comprised, has a chance to be one of the best in Penn State history. Now, I get the Penn State's history is not exactly steeped in Final Four appearances and national titles. I get it, but I really do. I think that the talent, and Puff Johnson stepped up in a big way. This week, like, they're getting different contributions from different guys on different nights in terms of, all right, this guy's the leading shooter tonight, this guy. But when you look at the stat line at the end, there's like 8 or 9 guys in the scoring column. There's 8 or 9 guys grabbing rebounds. There's 8 or 9 guys with, 5 or 6 with assists.
Mm-hmm.
There's different guys getting steals. There's Yannick in the block shots. It's not that you're relying on 1 or 2 guys to score and 1 or 2 guys to rebound. Now, Yannick's going to be a presence on the rebounding and the block shots, but he's finding other ways to contribute. Ace Baldwin, he's going to fill the stat sheet. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of guys that are doing a lot of different things and contributing 6 points here. Given Knight 12 points there. 4 or 5 rebounds here. A couple of steals. That stuff, when you get a bunch of different guys, and then, there's going to be nights where Ace Baldwin goes off, where Puff goes off, where Yannick goes off. Cool. All the better. But I think they are going to consistently have a bunch of different guys making contributions in a bunch of different ways. And I think the offensive prowess is jumping off the stat page here with the eye-popping numbers, averaging 101 points a game. But I'm telling you, Goon, that the defensive effort and their ability to hit the boards is impressive through the first 3 here this season.
You met Mike, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to see him and Kale talk. And just the intensity of the conversation between the two of them.
Yeah.
But you look at them and they're just always sucking everything in and digesting it and this and that. They're very similar.
They are.
I mean, Mike is as competitive as a person I've ever known. I mean, he'll come to the tailgate and I can get 4 pieces of pork roll in and stuff like that. I mean, he's crazy like that. But he loves it here. He loves Penn State. I mean, he wants to win here, and that's what I love. And he's going to win here, and that's what people are going to they're going to start seeing and getting behind it. Like, I'm just sitting here thinking in my head, like, when was the last time Penn State had an All-American? Like, Ace Baldwin is that ability to be a first-team All-American point guard. And that would be that is the next step, in getting guys here. And I mean, we got it pretty good here. We're pretty close to a lot of places with great basketball. And maybe the NIL helps us, a team like us, in certain aspects. And maybe guys aren't going to Carolina, Kansas, Syracuse, or Ohio State, Michigan, from Philadelphia, New York City, DC, because you know what, they can get here. And there's only so much money a school can give. And maybe if we start raising money in NIL, basketball is going to follow pretty close, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, I don't put it past him. I think that the best thing that could have happened to us and Mike Rhodes was them picking Penn State to be, I think, second to last in the Big Ten this year. And I absolutely laughed at it, and I'm like, that's all Mike needed to see. And those guys are going to hear about that every freaking day, every day.
Yeah, I am surprised that maybe I shouldn't be that Penn State was that overlooked, given just Ace Baldwin alone coming back. I really was. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting Penn State to be picked up near the top, but I really thought going into the season that the national folks or the conference as a whole would be looking at Penn State as a middle of the pack type of team, a 9, 10, 11 team. That was an attention getter when you're, we think Penn State's going to be 17th out of the 18 teams. And I'm looking at the roster and I'm looking at what they accomplished last year. And that just seemed very strange to me. And again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I really think Penn State basketball does have a chance to be to basketball in the Big Ten what Indiana football has been to football in the Big Ten this season. Like that type of a
Well, I'm looking at
surprise.
I've been talking about it for 3 weeks now. I finally looked it up. So Bleacher Report had a Big Ten preview beginning of the season for football. Where do you think Indiana was? And this is after media
football,
day. This is after media day.
This is Bleacher Report, not
Yeah.
I'm
it
gonna
can't be
say
that
they
much.
had them 15?
17.
17.
Yep.
Well, there you go. Then that's a direct comparison. Now,
That's
we'll see if Penn
exactly
State
what we're
jumps out
talking
to,
about.
what would be comparable?
What,
24
and 0? Yeah. But I've just been thinking about that and how Signetti's probably using that no one wanted us here.
Oh, I'm sure.
The same way Rhodes is. You, as a coach,
That's
will use
interesting.
everything that you could possibly do in your mind to do that. I mean, another one is BYU. They were picked last in the Big 12.
Yeah, BYU, I would like to go back. I won't because I don't have the time and I'm not really that interested. But I am curious as to how they've gotten to this point. Again, I don't want to make too much of it, but I'm watching that Utah game, and all credit to them. They pulled it out and kind of like
I'm glad
Miami.
you watched the second half because I passed out.
But how do
Fell asleep.
And I get it's a rivalry game, but I mean Utah is kind of a middle of the road.
Yeah,
I think that was their 4th or 5th loss.
They don't have the one-legged quarterback out there,
right? And so, but if you just watch that game, and that's really all I've watched of BYU, you would not guess that team is undefeated on the season, even pulling that one out the way it did. I am a little perplexed. And again, I think BYU will lose at Arizona State in 2 weeks. Yeah. Arizona State is putting together a pretty doggone good season here, and they've got a nice team. I think that's where the, if you want to call it Cinderella run here for BYU ends. A
lot of shakeup ahead, buddy. A lot of shakeup.
Yeah, there's just so many things that can still happen with the way this college football season plays out. Colorado, they're showing up on the Big Ten network right now. Better story in all of college football.
Stop it with Colorado.
Indiana or Colorado. Well, listen, there's a lot of people that were expecting. I mean, Indiana is the better story just because Colorado was expecting Colorado to not only do what Colorado's done, but to be better than what Colorado's been.
That should be Indiana or BYU is what that should say, but it's Colorado. They got to talk about pride.
Or Army. I mean, Army is a great story to this point. Now, I think that's going to come to an end here.
I'll give Oregon some credit, but you and I are both in the same milk sitting there saying, okay, well, these guys welcome to the Big Ten Conference. Every week is a dogfight. Every week is a dog. Every week is a fight.
Yeah,
they've run through it pretty damn good.
They have. They've been impressive. But you knew. I mean, almost everybody had Oregon ranked in the top 5 at the start of the season.
But I also thought Oklahoma would be a little bit better than they are in the SEC. I mean, Texas is. I guess I should compare Oregon and Texas and saying who's been more impressive going to the new conference and just
holding their own at the very least.
Yeah, don't get me. I mean, Texas lost the game. We get it, all that stuff. But I mean, they just got to talk about Prime, and I gotta ask it. Do you think he's NFL material? It's going to take a hell of an owner to do something like that to name him the head coach.
Yes.
This is too much sideshow, man. Too much. But guess who likes that sideshow stuff?
Well,
old Jera.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that would work. Whether or not they'd both be willing to try is another story.
I could show you the video, but the younger son scored a touchdown last week, a defensive touchdown. Did you see that?
Yes.
And then did you see him dancing? Did a Deion dance, which is fine and all and good. But the Texas Tech ball boy, did you see the ball boy? He went up behind him and tried to grab the ball out of his hand because it's a Texas Tech football. He looks at him, does this. His brother comes over, gets in the ball boy's face, and I think it's the third Sanders brother, comes up and pushes the guy and just starts F-bombing him and you're like, dude, the kid is doing his job.
Yeah.
And then nothing has been done about it. No one said a freaking word about it. No one said, hey, we apologize for that. First of all, it's not your ball. That's a Texas Tech football. That I'm sure that kid went to the sideline and his coaches were giving him grief. You lost one of our game balls. That's just me. It was just disrespect, and it's just like that's why I can't wait for them to fail out there. Can't wait because I just can't stand how this is being done. I mean, the whole thing. It's all a freaking show. Go to the Cowboys, have fun. It'd be great. Draft your son first overall as a quarterback because he's not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I don't think so either.
Nope.
But
he's a con man, and he's conning his way into the NFL. He conned his way in Division I football. He wants to go somewhere. Go to Florida State. I'm sure that they're talking about, but then that's the face of your university. I don't know if people want that. Colorado's happy with it, I think. I have some friends whose kids go to Colorado, and they effing hate that team and that guy. It's just too much is what they say.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that sentiment. I also think when you were as irrelevant as Colorado had been, you're happy to be relevant.
Now you're happy to be relevant again. I got you. I mean, I get it. But it's going to take a heck of an NFL coach to say, okay, here's the keys. Because, I mean, how many? There's a lot of transgressions in that man's life that did Colorado just overlook that other schools I don't think would, and they would ask him about it type of thing, like, hey, what was this about? You're doing this or you're doing that. Your kid's going to be going to prison here soon for assault and battery, paralyzing a man, but no one's even talking about that because it's prime. And I'm over it. I'm sick of it. I would love to see him go to the NFL and go to the Cowboys and just get absolutely destroyed. I want him to get destroyed while he's at Colorado, but it's not really happening because he's got ballers out there and they're playing, but if they play anybody good, their offensive line is so bad.
I was going to say, also, the schedule they're playing is not
it's
exactly
Patsy's right now.
Yes.
So they'll play BYU in a Pac-12, or I'm sorry, a Big 12.
Yeah. Yep. And I got to tell you, I'm basing this on one half of football, and that's, I will concede that's not fair, but it's all
Utah.
I've seen from them, and I'm
I watched the first half, Jeff.
I think Colorado would beat BYU. I think just about anybody in the top 20 would beat BYU. And I know they beat SMU early in the season. I don't think they'd beat SMU now, and I don't know exactly where SMU is. I think that's a good team, but it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you, I think I did say on the other show that Iowa State was the team outside of the Power 4 conferences that I was most impressed with. They were I thought they were the most consistently good team, really well coached, very disciplined, and they've lost back-to-back games and have not looked like that same team. So that's the thing. And again, Georgia against Texas looked like that's the best team in the country. They've got it all figured out. Georgia against Ole Miss looks like a team that I think rightfully can be left out of the playoffs and that's an Ole Miss team that 2 weeks earlier looked like it should rightfully be left out of the playoffs. Now, I do think that Ole Miss offense, when it is clicking, I think that is as good of an offense as there is in college football. Jackson Dart, as Penn State can attest, is
I want
again
them.
when he
I
is
want them
on,
up here.
He is on.
That's who I want. That's who I want.
What you wish
I
for.
know,
That
but
one
I want a
worries
little
me.
revenge from last year.
I hear you, but what if you get the opportunity to get the revenge and don't get the revenge?
Well, we didn't have two defensive coordinators, and how many guys opted out of that game?
No, I hear you, but do you want Ohio State Redux? I mean, if they like the worst case scenario, I think for Penn State is that you do get Ole Miss here and then lose that game, and especially if it's in similar fashion where Jackson Dart is, and just because of that receiving core and him, I think that's a possibility. Even if it's a night game, but white out at Beaver Stadium and all of that, still a possibility.
4 o'clock could be a white out at Penn State too.
But that is absolutely a fact. And I would love the opportunity, and I think Penn State here, I do like Penn State's chances. I'm just saying, for the James Franklin haters, you talk about an opportunity. If they lose that game to Ole Miss, so then you have the only two losses.
Another big bowl, another big game.
Yeah, so Ohio State and Ole Miss, and that, I mean, everything, all of the vitriol that was spewed the moments and days after Ohio State is going to come back maybe tenfold if that scenario were to play out. Hopefully, it doesn't play out.
We got to the playoffs. We got to the playoffs, but you didn't do anything in them.
Yeah, they get to close it out. Yeah, I do think it is important that Penn State, if it gets that home playoff game, being in the playoffs, then to me is not enough. You need to get at least to the quarterfinals to truly feel, and again, my opinion, that you've taken that next step as a program. All right, that is going to wrap things up. Enjoy the weekend of sports, all of it. Whatever you're going to, whatever you're checking out, enjoy it, and we'll be back to talk all about it next Tuesday with our next edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show here from Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. Great food, great service, great beverages, great place to come on down and watch all of that aforementioned sports action. Again, we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Until then, be good and be safe.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
Get our Best Wings USA, signature sauces, mouth-watering appetizers, or any of our delicious award-winning lube favorites.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak Lube.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty proudly presents the introduction of our new State College office at 314 South Borough Street in State College. At Sotheby's International Realty, we advertise locally, nationally, and internationally, bringing the best of advertising and promotion to each and every one of our properties, big or small. Call now.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
WFXS, once again, the Fox, your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7, the Fox, State College, the Goon and Ironhead.